Imagine a man found dead on a beach with no ID, no clues, and a mysterious message in his pocket that simply reads, "It is finished," for over 70 years. Detectives, scientists, and even the FBI have failed to answer one haunting question: who was the Somerton Man? And why did he die in such strange circumstances? Today, we're going to unravel one of the most mind-bending mysteries in modern history and see if you can solve what the world's smartest minds could not. December 1st, 1948, a quiet morning on Somerton Beach, South Australia. A man is found lying against the seawall dressed neatly in a suit and polished shoes. He looks peaceful as if asleep, but he's dead. No ID, no wallet, no signs of struggle. Every label on his clothes is cut out. In his pocket, a small, torn piece of paper carries just two chilling words: Tamam Shud. This discovery ignites one of the most baffling investigations in criminal history, a case that blurs the line between love, espionage, and unsolved code-breaking. In this video, we'll uncover every strange clue, decode the cryptic messages, and follow the new DNA evidence that may finally reveal who the Somerton Man really was and why his death remains one of the most puzzling mysteries of our time. The story begins on a quiet summer morning, December 1st, 1948, on the shores of Somerton Beach, just outside Adelaide, South Australia. The sun was rising, the waves rolled gently, and the sea breeze carried the scent of salt and warmth, nothing unusual for this peaceful coastline. But that morning, something caught the eye of a few early beachgoers, something that didn't belong. Lying motionless against the seawall, half-sitting with his legs stretched out neatly before him, was a man well-dressed, clean-shaven, and strangely calm. He looked as if he had simply drifted off to sleep while watching the ocean. But when a closer look revealed that he wasn't breathing, the stillness of the beach transformed into a scene that would soon puzzle the world. The police were called, and when officers arrived, they examined the body. The man appeared to be in his mid-40s, about 6 feet tall, athletic build, wearing a neatly pressed brown suit, a white shirt, and polished shoes that seemed too clean for a man found on the sand. There was no sign of a struggle, no bruises, no blood, nothing that suggested violence. His posture was so peaceful that witnesses initially assumed he was drunk or sleeping, but he was very much dead. Now, the first strange detail emerged. When detectives searched his pockets, they found a bus ticket, an unused train ticket to Henley Beach, a pack of juicy fruit chewing gum, a packet of cigarettes, and a metal comb. But not a single document to reveal his identity. No wallet, no identification card, not even a laundry tag on his clothing. Even more peculiar, every single label on his clothes had been carefully cut out, as if someone wanted to erase all trace of who this man was. At first, police thought it might be a suicide, perhaps a lonely man who wandered to the beach to end his life quietly. But as investigators dug deeper, the mystery grew stranger by the hour. The body showed no external injuries, no clear cause of death. Toxicology reports revealed something even more baffling: traces of poison were suspected but never proven, as no known substance was found in his system. It was as if he had died from a poison so rare or so advanced that it left no trace behind. And then came the question: how did this man end up here, dressed so immaculately, with no identification? And why would anyone go to the trouble of removing every label from his clothes? It felt deliberate, precise, and almost professional. Investigators began canvassing nearby hotels, train stations, and lost property offices, searching for any sign of a missing man matching the description. Soon, they made an interesting discovery. A brown suitcase left unclaimed at the Adelaide railway station cloakroom appeared to be linked to him. Inside were several neatly folded clothes, a screwdriver, a knife, and a stencil brush used by people who work with shipping cargo or electrical equipment. Once again, every clothing label had been removed. The only possible clue was a single word handwritten on one item: T. Keane. But this name led nowhere. No missing person named Keane, no identification, no connection. The deeper detectives looked, the stranger the puzzle became. Witnesses began to come forward. One woman claimed she saw the man the night before he was found, lying in the same spot, barely moving. She thought he might be asleep. Another man mentioned seeing someone raise an arm weakly during the night, but assumed it was nothing. These sightings suggested that the man had been alive for several hours before dawn, quietly slipping away under the cover of darkness. When the police began tracing his movements, they found that he had likely arrived in Adelaide just the day before his death. The unused train ticket in his pocket was purchased that same morning, but for some reason he never boarded. Why? Did he change his mind, or was he being followed? Every object, every detail of his death seemed to speak in riddles. The way he was dressed, the lack of labels, the suitcase, the absence of identification, nothing was random. It all felt intentional, like the work of someone trying to erase himself from existence, or perhaps someone trying to make sure no one ever knew who he was. Newspapers soon picked up the story, dubbing it the Mystery Man of Somerton Beach. Reporters flooded the area, and photos of the unknown man were published across Australia. Despite the publicity, not a single person stepped forward to identify him. No missing persons report matched his face. It was as if he had appeared from nowhere and vanished just as suddenly. The coroner's report would later describe the case as one of the most unusual deaths in South Australian history. The man's body showed signs of perfect health, except for a small congestion in the stomach and internal organs, possible evidence of poisoning. But without proof of what toxin or even how it was administered, the death remained officially labeled as cause unknown. As the investigation expanded, police artists recreated a plaster cast of his face and upper body, hoping that time might bring someone forward. The cast itself was eerily lifelike, with a faint, mysterious smile that unsettled those who saw it. The man in the plaster seemed calm, even serene, as if he knew something that no one else did. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months, but no answers emerged. No family claimed him, no one recognized his photograph, and the leads grew cold. Still, there was something about the way this man had been found, peaceful yet deliberate, that refused to fade from public memory. Investigators began to suspect there was far more to this story than just an unidentified body. Somewhere within these simple clues, a beach, a suitcase, and a name that wasn't real lay the beginning of one of the most confounding mysteries in modern history. Weeks after the unidentified man was found lifeless on Somerton Beach, the investigation appeared to be going nowhere. Police had combed through every lead, every missing persons report, and every hotel guest record across Adelaide, yet no one came forward to claim the body. The man had no name, no traceable possessions, and no explanation for how or why he had died. It was as if he had simply materialized out of thin air and then vanished back into it. But just when it seemed like the case would fade into obscurity, a single, haunting discovery reignited the investigation and transformed it into a global mystery. Months after the man's death, as his belongings were being re-examined, a small, tightly rolled piece of paper was found hidden deep inside one of his pockets, sewn discreetly into the lining of his trousers. The paper was about the size of a matchbox label, and on it, printed in delicate Persian script, were two words, Tamam Shud. Those words would become the cornerstone of one of the most perplexing investigations in history. The phrase was quickly translated. In English, it means, "It is finished," or "the end." That haunting message immediately led investigators to believe the man may have taken his own life. But the placement of the paper carefully hidden, almost as if it were meant to be found later, suggested something far more deliberate. It wasn't written by hand. It had been torn neatly from a printed book. But what book? That question would set off a chain of discoveries that no one could have anticipated. Detectives launched an exhaustive search to find where that phrase had come from. They scoured libraries, bookstores, and even antique shops, showing the fragment to linguists, historians, and collectors. Eventually, someone recognized it was from a rare edition of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a collection of Persian poetry that had been translated into English and published in the early 20th century. But finding which copy it had come from would be like finding a single grain of sand on the beach where the man was discovered. Still, the police refused to give up. Then, in an astonishing twist, a local man came forward with a claim that would blow the case wide open. He said that around the same time the Somerton man's body was found, he had discovered a copy of the Rubaiyat tossed into the back seat of his car, which had been parked on a nearby street in Adelaide. The book was a rare 1941 edition, and when detectives examined it, their suspicions were confirmed. The final page, where the words Tamam Shud should have appeared, had been neatly torn out. The torn edge matched perfectly with the scrap of paper found in the Somerton Man's pocket. It was a perfect fit, a direct link between the unidentified man and the mysterious book. But that discovery only deepened the mystery further. Who placed the book in the man's car? Why was the phrase, "It is finished," torn out and hidden in the dead man's clothing? Was it a suicide note, a cryptic farewell, or part of something far more sinister? The book itself held even more secrets. On the inside of the back cover, investigators found a series of strange markings, 5 lines of jumbled letters, arranged almost like a code. At first glance, it looked meaningless, just random letters and slashes. But to trained eyes, it looked suspiciously like a cipher. The police called in codebreakers, including experts from military intelligence, to analyze it. Some believed it could be a form of shorthand. Others thought it was a substitution cipher, the kind used in espionage. But after weeks of study, no one could crack it. It didn't match any known code system used by governments or militaries. It was as if the message had been written in a language known only to one person, the Somerton Man himself. Alongside the code, another discovery added to the intrigue. A local phone number was penciled in faintly on the back of the book's cover. The number belonged to a young nurse living just a short distance from Somerton Beach. Her name was Jessica Thompson, though in police reports she was referred to by the pseudonym Jestyn. When investigators visited her, she appeared nervous and reluctant to speak. She claimed she didn't know the dead man, though when shown his plaster cast, witnesses said she looked visibly shocked, almost as if she recognized him instantly. She insisted she knew nothing about the case, but her connection to the book made it impossible to dismiss her entirely. The Tamam Shud note, the coded writing, and the nurse's mysterious reaction all seemed to suggest a deeper hidden story. Was this a tragic love affair, a secret relationship gone wrong? Or was it something darker, an espionage operation from the tense post-war years of the late 1940s? At the time, Australia was a hotspot for intelligence activity. The Cold War had just begun, and the region was crawling with foreign agents. The precision with which the Somerton Man's identity had been erased, the removed labels, the untraceable clothing, the use of a coded message began to look less like suicide and more like something designed to conceal the truth. And yet, the poetry of Omar Khayyam, the source of the Tamam Shud phrase, seemed almost poetic in its irony. The Rubaiyat is a collection of verses about life, death, and destiny. It speaks of the fleeting nature of existence and the acceptance of fate. If the Somerton Man chose that phrase himself, it could have been his final message to the world, a symbolic farewell. But if someone else placed it there, it might have been a signature or a calling card or even a warning. The book connected every strand of the mystery together: the unknown man, the hidden message, and the nurse who wished to remain anonymous. The tiny scrap of paper pulled from a dead man's pocket had transformed a routine investigation into an enigma that stretched beyond the realm of ordinary crime. What began as a simple beachside death now had the elements of coded communication, forbidden love, and international intrigue woven into its fabric. The words Tamam Shud had become both a clue and a curse, a phrase that whispered of endings yet offered no explanation of beginnings. By now, the world was hooked on the enigma of Somerton Man. Newspapers across Australia, and soon beyond, were calling it the case with no name. The image of the mysterious man in a suit, found lifeless on a sunlit beach, stirred something deeper than curiosity. It was as if the man himself had been a cipher, his life, his past, and his death all hidden beneath layers of deliberate mystery. In the days following the discovery of the Tamam Shud note, detectives redoubled their efforts to uncover his identity. Every conventional path of investigation had already been tried: fingerprinting, dental comparison, missing persons lists, international alerts. Yet nothing matched. His fingerprints were sent to the Australian Federal Bureau, to Scotland Yard, even to the FBI in the United States. Each agency returned the same response: no match found. His dental records revealed unique features, but when compared to hundreds of files, they aligned with no known individual. It was as though the Somerton Man had never officially existed. His clothing offered no help either. Every label, every manufacturer's tag, every single identifier had been carefully removed. Even the brand of his shoes was untraceable, though they appeared to be American-made, finely crafted, and recently polished. Detectives began to suspect that whoever he was, he had taken great care to eliminate every trace of himself. That level of precision wasn't common. It felt calculated, even trained, something that hinted at espionage or intelligence work. To try and understand who he might have been, the police started reconstructing his last days. From the few clues they had, they pieced together a rough timeline. The unused train ticket found in his pocket was purchased early on the morning of November 30th, 1948, the day before his death. The ticket was for a short journey to Henley Beach, yet he never boarded that train. Why? Did something or someone stop him from going? Or did he decide at the last moment to change his destination? The bus ticket, however, was used. Investigators confirmed that he had traveled by bus to a stop near Somerton Beach, suggesting that he went there by choice. Witnesses described seeing a man matching his description sitting on a bench around the evening hours, reading or simply staring toward the ocean. That detail painted a haunting picture, a solitary figure, dressed in a suit, watching the sunset as if contemplating his fate. Then came the suitcase, the one found in the Adelaide railway station's cloakroom. It had been checked in on November 30th, just hours before his death. Inside, police found several neatly folded garments, a pair of pajamas, a shaving brush, a screwdriver, scissors, and a stencil brush. The kind of items a man might carry if he traveled often or worked with his hands. But once again, every label had been cut off. Every single clue that might have named him had been carefully erased. The only writing found was on a single undershirt, two faintly printed letters, T. Keene. But this clue, too, led nowhere. There was no missing person named Keene, no clothing store that remembered selling garments under that name, and no record of anyone with those initials who fit his description. Even more suspiciously, investigators noticed that this label was the only one not removed, almost as if it had been planted, deliberately left behind to mislead anyone searching for the truth. Experts began to speculate that the Somerton Man may have been a spy, perhaps involved in post-war intelligence. Australia, in 1948, was deeply entwined in Cold War politics. The nearby Woomera Test Range, a secret site for rocket and weapon experiments, was operational at that time, attracting both Allied and Soviet attention. Espionage was rampant. Agents often traveled under false identities, carrying coded messages and using dead drops to communicate. The Somerton Man's behavior, the erased identity, the hidden code in the Rubaiyat, the mysterious death with no trace of poison fit too neatly into that world to be dismissed. Still, the authorities couldn't confirm it. Without an identity, there was no proof. The newspapers ran sensational headlines. Was he a spy? The man who never existed. Code of death at Somerton Beach. The public became obsessed, poring over every detail printed in the press. Amateurs, detectives, and codebreakers sent theories by the hundreds, each one trying to explain who he was, where he came from, and what his death meant. But none could be verified. The physical description was circulated across the country. Photographs were shown to families, to workers in nearby towns, to travelers passing through. Not one person recognized him. It was as though he had appeared for a single purpose, and once the purpose was fulfilled, he was erased completely. Even his physical traits raised questions. His hands were clean but strong, suggesting manual labor. Yet his clothes and posture hinted at a man of education or refinement. His calves were unusually developed, the kind seen in people who ran or danced frequently, perhaps an athlete, or a man accustomed to standing on his toes, like a soldier or a dancer. Every detail contradicted the next. He was an enigma wrapped in contradictions, a man who seemed to belong everywhere and nowhere at once. When the police exhausted every conventional lead, they turned to the public. An inquest was held, where the coroner described the case as one of the most baffling in his career. The possibility of poisoning remained at the forefront, but no substance could be identified. His organs were preserved, his fingerprints catalogued, and yet nothing moved the case forward. Weeks passed, then months. The body, now embalmed to preserve it for future identification, lay unclaimed in the morgue. Eventually, authorities decided to bury him. A small ceremony was held, attended only by a few police officers and reporters. The grave marker read simply, "Here lies the unknown man found at Somerton Beach, the 1st of December 1948, but even in death, the Somerton Man refused to be forgotten." His face, his posture, the quiet mystery surrounding him, everything about him seemed designed to provoke curiosity. And somewhere among the unanswered questions, the missing name, and the untraceable trail, investigators began to wonder if the most important clue wasn't something they had missed, but something he had deliberately left behind, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be understood by the right eyes. As the investigation into the Somerton Man deepened, the mystery began to twist into something almost cinematic. What started as an unidentified body on a beach had turned into a labyrinth of clues that seemed to defy logic. But nothing baffled investigators more than the strange series of letters discovered scrawled inside the back cover of that rare book, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, the very same book from which the torn phrase Tamam Shud had come. Those letters, grouped in irregular patterns, appeared to form some sort of coded message, and that code to this day stands as one of the most perplexing puzzles ever encountered in a real-life investigation. When detectives first opened the back cover and saw the markings, they immediately knew this was not a random doodle. Written faintly in pencil, the letters were arranged in lines, almost like verses, but without meaning in any known language. It looked like this: Rugoababdem liaoi twen panet mayaboayak it sam stab. The letters repeated in strange ways, some lines containing mirrored sequences, others seemingly deliberate abbreviations. One line crossed out lightly hinted that someone had been drafting or reworking a hidden message. Police had no idea what to make of it. Was it a cipher? A code only two people could understand? Or simply meaningless scribbles made to mislead them? The South Australian police brought in their best analysts. But soon, the Australian military became involved. The case had begun to smell of espionage, and no one wanted to take chances. Cryptographers from the Army and Navy were given copies of the code. Experts who had cracked enemy communications during World War II examined the pattern, yet even they were stumped. The sequences didn't match any military cipher, no substitution system, no frequency pattern that made sense. Some letters repeated too often, others not at all. It didn't behave like a code, it behaved like something personal, something designed not to be cracked by algorithms, but to be understood by someone specific. The media caught wind of it, and soon headlines screamed across Australia, mystery code found in dead man's book. The public fascination turned into near hysteria. Amateur codebreakers sent in their own theories, each one more imaginative than the last. Some thought it was an acrostic, each letter standing for the first word in a poem or message. Others suggested it was a love letter, encoded in the simplest form possible. And a growing number of theorists were convinced the man was a spy, carrying secret information hidden in plain sight, perhaps meant for a contact who never arrived. The connection to espionage seemed irresistible. After all, the timing fit perfectly. The year was 1948, just after World War II, when Cold War tensions were tightening their grip across the globe. The Soviet Union's intelligence networks were expanding, and Australia, with its newly formed security agencies, was becoming a key location for Western intelligence operations. The secrecy surrounding the Somerton Man's death, the removed clothing labels, the rare poison theory, and now this indecipherable code, it all lined up like pieces of a covert operation gone wrong. But not everyone believed in the spy angle. Some cryptographers suggested a more poetic explanation. Perhaps the code wasn't a military cipher at all, but something emotional, maybe the man's final message, written in a language of his own creation. A code of memory, initials representing phrases or names only he and one other person would know. That idea gained traction when the police discovered that faint phone number scribbled beside the code belonging to Jessica Thompson. The nurse who lived near Somerton Beach, Jessica, when questioned again, insisted she had no idea why her number appeared in the book. She claimed she didn't know the dead man, though her reactions told a different story. Witnesses said her hands trembled when she saw the plaster cast of his face, her eyes welling up as though she recognized him but couldn't or wouldn't admit it. Some believe the code could have been a private message between the two, perhaps referencing meetings or secrets they shared. Was it a lover's code, meant to be read only by her? Or had it been part of something far more dangerous? The cipher continued to torment investigators. Experts from Britain and America tried their hands at breaking it, using every available method of the time pattern recognition, frequency analysis, substitution models, but none succeeded. The structure of the writing didn't match anything in standard cryptology. To this day, not a single analyst has produced a definitive decryption. The pattern remains maddeningly resistant to logic. What made the puzzle even stranger was how casually it had been written. No signs of stress, no deliberate attempt to hide it. It felt spontaneous, as if someone had jotted it down in thought or memory. Some modern researchers believe it could represent the initials of lines from the Rubaiyat itself, a book filled with verses about fate, life, and death. If that's true, the code might have been the man's personal reflection, a cryptic form of poetry about his own end. But others still hold firm that it was part of an intelligence transmission, incomplete or intentionally obscured to protect classified information. In time, the physical copy of the Rubaiyat became one of the most studied books in criminal history. Every letter, every indentation was photographed and analyzed. Chemical tests were performed on the pages, searching for invisible ink or microwriting. Even ultraviolet light was used to check for hidden markings. Nothing else was ever found. Only the code and the haunting truth that no one could decipher it. Years later, new theories would emerge, claiming the letters corresponded to naval call signs or radio frequencies. Others argued it was an abbreviated diary, a record of personal events. But with every new idea, the case only grew murkier. The more people tried to explain the code, the deeper the mystery became. And while the cipher itself remained silent, the words that had begun this journey, Tamam Shud, meaning it is finished, took on new meaning. Perhaps the code was not meant to be broken at all. Perhaps it was written to be a message that only one person could ever truly understand. The Somerton Man had left behind a riddle, not just of death, but of purpose. A final communication, locked within the pages of a book that spoke of destiny, love, and the inevitability of endings. As detectives continued to chase the shadowy trail of the Somerton Man, every lead seemed to circle back to one named Jessica Thompson, or as she appeared in police reports, Jestyn. Her connection to the case was not direct, yet it was impossible to overlook. Her phone number had been scribbled inside the back cover of the very book that connected to the dead man, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. And while everything else about the Somerton Man's story felt cold and calculated, the link to this woman carried a different kind of weight, something human, emotional, and possibly tragic. Jessica Thompson was a young nurse living in a quiet suburb near Somerton Beach. She was in her late 20s at the time, intelligent, elegant, and soft-spoken. When the police first arrived at her doorstep, she appeared calm, but those who were present later recalled that her hands trembled slightly when she realized why they were there. The detectives asked if she had any connection to the Rubaiyat. To their surprise, she admitted that she once owned a copy of the book, the very same edition. She had given it years ago to a man she once knew, a man named Alf Boxall, who had served in the army during the war. At first, this seemed like the breakthrough investigators had been waiting for. If Boxall was the owner of the book, perhaps he was the Somerton Man. But when police tracked Boxall down, they were stunned. He was alive, well, and living in Sydney. Even more incredible, he still had his copy of the Rubaiyat complete and intact, with the final page still in place. That meant Jessica's book wasn't the one connected to the body. So how did her phone number end up inside another copy of the same rare edition? The more detectives pressed Jessica, the more uneasy she became. She claimed she had no idea who the Somerton Man was and denied any connection to him. Yet her reaction when shown the plaster cast of the man's face told a different story. Witnesses said she turned pale, nearly fainted, and refused to look again. One officer later remarked that her expression wasn't one of confusion, it was recognition. She knew something she wasn't willing to say. Jessica was asked repeatedly if she could identify the man. Each time she said no. but her evasive answers and emotional response raised more questions than they answered. Police began to wonder if the Somerton Man had been involved with her personally, perhaps romantically. After all, the Rubaiyat was a book of love and fates verses often exchanged between lovers during the war. Could this mysterious man have been someone from her past? A figure returning to find her, only to meet his end alone on that beach? The speculation grew wild. Reporters dug into Jessica's background, but very little could be found. She had served as a nurse during the war and was known for being private, almost secretive. Neighbors described her as kind but distant. She spoke several languages, including a bit of Russian, a detail that only fueled suspicions that she might have had connections beyond the ordinary. And when the espionage theory began to circulate, some even suggested that she and the Somerton Man might have been spies or couriers working for opposing sides, their fates colliding in some tragic, coded farewell. Yet despite the swirl of theories, Jessica refused to speak publicly about the case. She told police she wanted nothing to do with it, and as time passed, she changed her name, married, and tried to live a normal life. But whispers followed her for the rest of her days. Those who met her later in life said that any mention of the Somerton Man would make her uneasy, as though she carried a secret she could never reveal. Decades later, new evidence would add even more intrigue to her story. When investigators examined photographs of Jessica's son, Robin, they noticed something remarkable. He shared a rare genetic trait with the Somerton Man, hypodontia, a condition where two teeth never develop. Both also had unusually shaped ears with a distinctive upper hollow that was statistically rare. The resemblance between them was undeniable, almost uncanny. Could the Somerton Man have been Robin's father? If true, it would mean Jessica had known the man intimately and had chosen to conceal that truth for her entire life. Modern DNA testing would eventually suggest a link between the Somerton Man and a distant family line, connected to an electrical engineer named Carl Webb. But even that revelation did not erase the possibility that Jessica knew far more than she ever admitted. Some researchers believe that when she first saw the man's face in that plaster cast, she recognized not a stranger, but a part of her own hidden past. The connection between Jessica and the Somerton Man remains one of the most emotionally charged threads in the entire case. While most of the evidence surrounding the mystery is analytical codes, labels, chemical tests, this piece feels deeply personal. It brings humanity into a puzzle that otherwise feels mechanical. The look on Jessica's face when confronted with his likeness, the strange overlap of the Rubaiyat, and the echo of romance or tragedy between them, all of it gives this mystery a pulse that logic alone can't explain. Some believe Jessica was simply protecting her privacy, fearing scandal. Others insist she was protecting national secrets or shielding her family from the fallout of something dark and dangerous. There is also the haunting idea that she may have been caught between two worlds, one of ordinary life and another shadowed by espionage, where silence was survival. The truth of who Jessica Thompson really was and what she knew about the Somerton Man may never be uncovered, but her presence in the story transformed it completely. Before her, the case was a riddle of codes and clues. After her, it became something else, a mystery with a heartbeat, a love story buried beneath layers of silence and fear. Each time her name was mentioned, the air around the case seemed to shift. It was no longer just about an unidentified man. It was about the people who might have loved him, betrayed him, or buried his secret forever. For decades, the identity of the Somerton Man haunted investigators, historians, and ordinary people alike. Every lead had gone cold, every theory seemed to crumble under scrutiny, and for years, the unknown man buried under the words, "Known unto God" in Adelaide's West Terrace Cemetery seemed destined to remain a mystery forever. But time has a way of bending toward truth, and with the rise of modern forensic science, the story of the Somerton Man was about to be reborn. It began quietly, no dramatic press conferences or sudden discoveries, just a group of dedicated researchers, digital detectives, and genetic experts who refused to let the mystery die. In 2009, a university researcher named Professor Derek Abbott became deeply fascinated by the case. He didn't see the Somerton Man as just another cold case. To him, it was a human story waiting for science to catch up. Abbott began by revisiting every detail: the man's clothes, the Rubaiyat code, the autopsy results, and of course the strange connection to Jessica Thompson. But where others saw walls, Abbott saw opportunities. He wondered, could modern DNA testing finally give this man a name? There was one major problem. The Somerton Man had been buried for decades, and his body was not preserved for DNA analysis. What remained were limited samples from old hair and tissue stored in university archives. Most believed they were useless, but Abbott was determined. He collaborated with forensic experts and began the slow, painstaking process of extracting mitochondrial DNA genetic material passed down through the maternal line. After months of careful work, they had a usable sample, though incomplete. Still, it was enough to begin building a genetic profile. Using this data, Abbott turned to the rapidly advancing field of genetic genealogy, the same technique that had solved numerous cold cases around the world. The idea was simple in theory but monumental in practice: upload the DNA profile to public genealogy databases, find distant relatives, and slowly build a family tree backward until it intersects with the unknown individual. Piece by piece, the puzzle began to take shape. The process was excruciatingly slow. Every match led to dozens of new branches, and the team had to sift through mountains of genealogical date of birth records, marriage certificates, obituaries, and military documents. They traced connections across continents, from Australia to the United Kingdom, to the tangled roots of European ancestry. Then, in 2022, after more than 70 years of speculation, the announcement came that would shake the foundations of one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. The Somerton Man finally had a name: Carl Charles Webb, born in 1905 in Melbourne, Australia. He was an electrical engineer and instrument maker, the youngest of 6 siblings. But while this revelation was groundbreaking, it opened up new questions just as quickly as it closed old ones. Who was Carl Webb? Why was he in Adelaide? And what had driven him to die alone on a beach hundreds of miles from home? The records painted a picture of a quiet, intelligent man who loved poetry and tinkering with machinery. He had been married, but his relationship ended bitterly, and around the time of his disappearance, he was separated from his wife, Dorothy. Court documents revealed that Dorothy had moved to South Australia. Crucial detail that might explain why Webb had traveled to Adelaide in the first place. Could he have come searching for her, heartbroken and desperate, only to meet a tragic end? His connection to the Rubaiyat suddenly made sense. The book, filled with verses about fate, mortality, and the fleeting nature of life, could have been a reflection of his emotional turmoil. Tamam Shud, the phrase found in his pocket, means "it is finished." Perhaps it wasn't a message of mystery at all, but a personal statement, a poetic farewell from a man crushed by loss and loneliness. But even this seemingly simple explanation left gaps. There was still no conclusive proof of how Carl Webb died. The poison theory remained dominant, yet no traces were ever found in his body. The coded message in the Rubaiyat also persisted as an enigma. If he was simply a heartbroken man, why write a cryptic series of letters resembling a military or intelligence cipher? Why remove the label from his clothes, and why carry no form of identification? The layers of intrigue stubbornly clung to the story, refusing to dissolve completely. As forensic technology continued to advance, more insights emerged from Webb's DNA. It showed no connection to espionage networks or criminal histories, but it did reveal genetic links to a large family tree stretching across Australia. Among his distant relatives were engineers, musicians, and even scientists, a lineage that fit the image of a man with a curious mind and technical skill. Yet none of this could explain the haunting precision of the circumstances around his death. It was as if Carl Webb had meticulously erased himself from existence, leaving only a riddle behind. For Jessica Thompson's family, the revelation brought a strange mix of relief and confusion. DNA comparisons suggested that she and Carl Webb were not related, nor was her son Robin likely his child. The supposed familial resemblance had been a coincidence of rare traits. But that didn't erase the emotional weight of her reaction back in 1948, nor the fact that her phone number was found in a book connected to him. Perhaps they had met once, briefly, their lives intersecting by chance. Or perhaps there was a connection too personal and painful for her ever to admit. What modern science did was humanize the mystery again. The Somerton Man was no longer just a nameless figure or a spy from a Cold War thriller. He was Carl Webb, a real man with dreams, heartbreaks, and flaws. His story, while still incomplete, was no longer just a puzzle. It was a reflection of how easily a person can vanish from the world, and how long it can take for their name to be remembered again. And yet, even with his identity revealed, the sense of mystery refuses to die. The unanswered questions linger like ghosts. Why the code? Why the secrecy? And why Somerton Beach? DNA had given us the man's name, but it couldn't tell us his final thoughts, his motives, or what Tamam Shud truly meant to him. For every fact uncovered, there seems to be another truth hiding in the shadows, waiting for someone brave enough or obsessed enough to dig deeper into the most puzzling case in modern history. And so, after decades of speculation, theories, and relentless investigation, the mystery of the Somerton Man has come full circle, yet somehow it still refuses to rest. We now know his name, Carl Webb, a man of intellect, passion, and quiet tragedy. We know he lived, loved, and lost. But the how and why of his death, those final, haunting moments on Somerton Beach, remain just out of reach, like a secret whispered by the waves and carried away by time. For more than 70 years, the world tried to define the Somerton Man. Was he a spy, a lover, a fugitive, or a poet of his own demise? Perhaps he was all of those things, or none. His life's fragments, the torn piece of the Rubaiyat, the hidden code. The emotionless corpse on the sand formed a story that felt bigger than one man. It was a riddle about identity, secrecy, and the silent corners of the human heart. What makes the Somerton Man mystery so enduring isn't just the unanswered questions, it's what those questions say about us. Our obsession with knowing, our need to uncover meaning even when none is offered, our fear of disappearing without a trace. The story reminds us that even in a world ruled by logic and science, some truths still belong to the realm of mystery. Carl Webb's story may have started as a cold case, but it became something deeper, a mirror of human vulnerability. A reminder that behind every enigma lies a life once lived, a soul once searching for purpose. The name Somerton Man once stood for everything we didn't know. Now, it stands for everything we still strive to understand about love, loss, and the thin veil between anonymity and remembrance. Maybe Tamam Shud wasn't just an ending. Maybe it was Carl Webb's quiet way of saying that his story, his pain, and his mystery were complete, even if ours never will be. Because in the end, every mystery leaves behind two endings, the one we uncover, and the one we never can.
Welcome to another Mystery Minute. Can you solve this magic? Like and subscribe for more.